Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. I'm going to give people another minute here to get on if they want to join. The training lasts about an hour and a half. We do record the training, so you can come back later and view the training at your leisure. That also allows you to share the link with other staff members who need to be system admins. You'll see there's several links in the show notes. Some of those are for other videos related to particular features, as well as links to the support pages, as well as the auto provisioning guide. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask a question about a particular feature as I go over it. And let's go ahead and get started. So here you see our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. For most admins, I do recommend bookmarking this page. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username. That's your email address. That should be in all lowercase letters. Your password is case sensitive, and it should have been emailed to you. And then your account name, which is typically your organization name. It could be your name if you just signed up under your own personal name. And then you would click on sign in. Now, if you don't have your password for whatever reasons, down here, just above the sign-in bar on the right-hand side, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. Flips the box over. Right. Still need your email address. Should still be in lowercase letters. And then we need one of these two, right? We don't need both. So we need either the account name or a phone number on the account. Typically, the account name is the easiest. And then you click on the reset password box. This sends you an email. In the body of the email, there's a link to get you logged in temporarily, basically to change your password. So that way, if you change your password, it will log you out. If you try to navigate away from that page, it will also log you out. But then you come back here, put in that new password. You have the option then to click on the Remember Me button and then click on Sign In. I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So when I log in, I'm getting taken here to the dashboard page, right? Giving me a quick snapshot of what's going on with my system. If it's your first time logging in, however, you get taken to your user account page. Now, you can always get back to your user account page by clicking on your name, which you will see at the top, just to the right of center of the page. So I can click here, and it's a big pop-up. All right, so like here, I can change my password if I needed to. I could also change the time zone, the language, etc. As an admin over here on the left, I can also click on the account level settings. Most common thing is change the account level, time zone, and language. Admins also have the option to make use of add-ons, which is just adding additional features to your account. You can add things like the text forward feature, additional auto attendance, advanced reporting. I think there might be a couple others. Some of these will increase your bill. You'll get a pop-up warning letting you know how much your bill will increase by. So you can then decide not to do so at that point and not change your bill. Then down here on the left, we have our billing portal. Right? So this link here gets you to the actual billing portal itself. And that's where you would go to view previous invoices or update your payment method. And then lastly, any admin has the option here to cancel the account. If you cancel the account here through the dashboard by following the on-screen steps, the account will cancel by your next billing cycle, right? So it'll finish the current billing cycle and then end. Now, if you need to have the account be canceled before that time, like you want to immediately cancel, then you would need to email our billing team. And that's just billing@virtualpbx.com. Now, once you're done through all of this section, over here to the top right, there's a close button. Just click on that, and you'll be taken here to the dashboard page. So up here at the top, right, you have your name. Then to the right of your name, most of you will have a D&D toggle. D&D stands for Do Not Disturb, and that just means when it's on, like it is now here for me, right now, that means I'm not accepting calls, right? So calls to my user are going to voicemail. My colleagues are not able to transfer calls to me. They get a message saying that I'm not available. Now, if I click on this D&D toggle again, it's going to switch it. So now it's mostly black. That means it's not on. Right? So calls are going to come into me normally. Now, if you've been assigned to the call center, right? So if you're making use of the call queues, the D&D toggle will be removed from any user you add to the call center because those two features do not work well together. A little phone icon here. When you click on this, it will open up a new tab and take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, then you can use your Dash login information to log into that page and make use of Chrome or Firefox to make and receive a call. It does count as a web phone. Little speech bubbles here. This opens up a new tab, takes you to virtualtext.app. It's a website that has its own login, and that is where you would make use of virtual text if you have that enabled on your account. Little question mark icon here. This opens up a chat bubble or chat window at the bottom right of your screen of your browser. So that way you can speak to one of our support agents who can help you with setting up a particular feature, etc. The three horizontal line icon, this is your menu icon to get you up to other Dash features. The vast majority of our training today is going to be here on the dashboard because that's the meat and potatoes of the Dash itself. But we'll touch on these others. Some of them, like the call center, I'm going to refer to the link in the show notes. So you can take a look at that if you need to. And then the little arrow icon here to the right, that's to log out of your current session, just on the website. Over here on the left-hand side, right, where it says Virtual PBX and dashboard is highlighted in blue, right, that lets me know which tab I'm currently on. And then you can highlight down these other tabs that we'll be going over as we go through this process. We're going to skip around a little bit, at least initially, because I'm basically doing this training as if it's a brand new account, right? So some steps basically to make it easier for you instead of having to go back and forth all the time. Right, and here in the middle, I've got my total users. I have 5 of them, right? So I have 5 people on my account who are making and receiving calls. Our plans are generally based on a per user basis, right? So the more users you have, the higher your bill. Then I have a breakdown of total devices. I have 10. And the first one up here is softphone. Softphone just means a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. So it's a VoIP phone. In this particular breakdown, looks like I have 4 soft phones. That includes the Virtual PBX soft phone as well as any third-party soft phones, right? Third-party meaning you're using somebody else's app. Right, we got the web phone, right? That Chrome or Firefox device. Cell phone, you can add a cell phone or landline number as a contact number or an endpoint on your account. Basically, that means we can send a call to your cell phone number. You can pick up and answer it. You're not going to be able to transfer that call or that caller to another person on your account, though. SIP phone, this is a physical device, right? So it's a phone. It's a phone, right? It sits on your desk, connects via an Ethernet cable, typically to get to your router, then out to the internet. But beyond that, it acts like any kind of phone you pretty much grew up with. Pick up the handset, dial a number, make and receive calls. Unregistered devices, I have 1. That means I've turned off or disabled one of my devices here on our dashboard, which we'll get to on the devices tab. Then I have total numbers, 17. I have 17 phone numbers on my account. Now, your account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Typically includes a main number and then a local number per user. So I'm definitely getting an overage per number per month. You can double check with our services team. Right now, I believe for new customers or for the current plans, it's $4.99 per month per phone number overage per month. So something to be aware of. Now I have a breakdown here. First is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number is a number in use, right? So it's one of my main numbers that you see on towards the top right, that number block there. So assigned numbers, someone can dial that number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Right? Spare number counts towards my allotment of numbers. I'm just not currently using it right now. Whether that's because, I had an employee leave, right, and they had a direct number, I just took it out of service, or I'm about to expand to a new uh, market, right, different area code. I want to get a phone number for that market, so that way people can call that particular storefront. But I haven't put it in use yet because there's no one there. The next breakdown is USDID, US toll free. US toll free is US Canada toll free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a number in San Jose, California, USDID, just as if you had one in Rochester, New York. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you'd like to get one, you want to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible. Right? There's some countries we just can't get numbers in. And for those countries that we can get numbers in, we'll let you know if there's any additional requirements that those countries require. All right, conference bridges, I have 3, and that means I have enabled the conference feature on 3 of my users. Right? So I have 3 people who host or moderate a conference. Over here towards the top right, I have my main number block. So I have 4 main numbers. Right? These 4 numbers act the same way. Right? They're going to the same location on my system, and in this case, they're going to have the same main greeting and same menu options. Next, down below that, I have the conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They're just going to the same set of conference rooms. And this is the number even your staff would have to dial to join the conference, right? It's the entry point for everybody. Then we have the fax box number. You're allowed to have 1 main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. Once you do have a fax box number, you can edit the fax box to allow for outbound faxing as well. Then we have the company directory, and there's 2 links here. One is CSV, the other is softphone. Oops. CSV, just downloads a CSV file, open it up with your favorite spreadsheet program, and you can see your staff members' names, their extension numbers, their devices, their email addresses. The softphone is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. So if you're using our app on a Windows or Mac PC, you can download this file, right? Upload it to your softphone on your computer, and you'll be able, in your contacts list, you'll see your other staff members listed there, as well as the status of their VirtualPBX softphone, right? So if my colleague Mike is making use of his softphone, I'll be able to tell that from my softphone, right? Because it'll be red. Now, if that same colleague has multiple devices, right? So let's say Mike has a Yealink phone as well as his VirtualPBX softphone, I won't be able to tell what's going on with the Yealink phone, only what's going on with the softphone. VirtualPBX Store, this opens up a new tab and takes you to store.virtualpbx.com. And this is where you would go to order things like a new VoIP phone. The account realm is unique to each account, right? Every account has its own account realm. Used in a couple things. For one, it's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party softphone. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about adding devices. The other thing it's used for is if you've enabled outbound faxing, you'll need this to actually send out the outbound fax. Sending a fax on the system is via email, right? So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, on the area code and phone number you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account from. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file. All right, we're going to go up here to the top. So Virtual VPBX New Hire Sandbox. To the right, I have this caller ID button. You can click on that, and you can select one of your main numbers, and then click on Save Changes, and that number becomes your default number, right? So like what your VoIP phones would use for the outbound caller ID by default, for example. Hold music. This allows you to set your own hold music for the account. Now, and what this means is after a call has come into your system, one of your staff members has picked up the call and then pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this hold music file will play. You can click the upload button here to upload your own media file. The system will play back a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte in size. Because of that size limit, we do recommend recording in mono, not in stereo, as that will save you some file size. A 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes long. This pull down will also show any media files you've already have on the account. So you'd want to make sure you have names that are easily recognizable for you. But otherwise, you would click Browse, find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, then you would click on Save Changes, and that would become the default hold music for all your staff members. All right, hours is actually part of main number. I don't want to get into main number right away until I have destinations as menu or for menu options. So instead, over here on the left, I'm going to click on the users tab here, right, little person over the desk. So here I see all my users on the account. The people with the blue suit icon, these are my system admins, right? So Dante, who's just a great person, he's a standard user. So he can still log into the website, but he's got very limited access, right? So he can check his own voicemail, for example. He can set up call forwarding for himself. That's basically about it, right? He's not going to be able to adjust his devices beyond the call forwarding. He's not going to be able to do a lot of the things we're talking about today. Up here at the top, right, that's total users 5. I have the option to add a user, and I fill out the form, right? So the first name and last name, the system wants some sort of text. Then it wants email address used for login. This should be unique for each user, right? So you're not reusing email addresses for multiple staff members. This is how the system communicates with your staff, right? So voicemail notification uses the email address used for login. Password reset email goes to this email address as well. Password, create a password for the user. Main extension number, you can enter a new extension number here. You don't have to use what the system suggests, right? The system will start you off with extension 1000. So for most of you, the next option would be 1001, right? But you can enter in something like that if you are so inclined. Now, by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user, right? This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So like if, for instance, you created a user with the voicemail box and then you added a VoIP phone that got registered for the user, that person could pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98. The system will walk them through creating a PIN number for the voicemail box as well as setting up their voicemail box greeting. They'll even have the option to record their name, which is what the system uses for the PBX directory. And here's your option to include them in the directory, or if you want to, you put a check mark here. You can always change your mind later. This option is to send emails to an alternate address. So if you want the email notifications that this person is going to receive, whether they're voicemail notifications, password resets, etc., and you don't want them to go to the email address used for login, you can put a check mark here and then enter in a different email address here. And this is also something you can change later. And this one, I also recommend putting a check mark in, and that is send credentials to the user or send email to the user. Yeah, send credentials. All right, put a check mark here. So that way, once you click on create user or create user and add another, this person gets an email. It says, welcome them to their Dash account, gives them their login information, and a welcome email. Right, create user, that's what you would tap if you're only adding one person. Create user and add another is if you were adding multiple people. Now, oops, once a user is created, you can always click on their name, right? So if you need to, you can change their name, right? Someone just changed the name for whatever reasons. Here's your option to change someone's credentials, right? You can change their email address or their password, but you do have to retype it. And then you would click on Save Changes. You also have the option here to send them the password reset email so they can change the password themselves. You can change their voicemail box PIN number here, right? Just enter 4 digits and then save changes. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate email address. All right, here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Now, the little person icon over here, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Little clock icon, this allows you to change the time zone for the user, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag icon, this allows you to change the display language of the web pages for this user. You can change it to English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds, which is typically plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have someone who's only using a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to 30 seconds, if not even higher. The extension box, right? You already created that with the user, but you can choose to add additional extensions if you want to. Right? You just click on that bottom here, and then you can enter in a new extension number and then click on Save Changes. Phone numbers. Users can have their own phone numbers. If you assign a phone number to a user, that phone number is available 24/7. Generally speaking, any place you can add a number, you'll have the option to buy a number or add from spare. Right, so add from spare is how you would make use of a number that's already on your account, but that you're not already making use of. It will show you the available numbers. You would click on the box in front of it, add selected, and then you would click on Save Changes. And you get the little green notification message there. Now, buy numbers, this is how you add new numbers to your account. So when you click and you mouse over it, you've got the option for local and toll-free. Toll-free, pretty easy. Choose a toll-free prefix you want to work with, and then click on Search. You will eventually get a list of phone numbers that are available. You can scroll down to get more numbers. You can add multiple numbers if you want, right? I can click add on 2 of them or more. I can choose to go back just to 1 if I want to. Now, just by putting in my cart here, I haven't done anything, right? But once I click on buy numbers, now I'm actually adding the number to the account. Up until this point, someone else could have taken the number from me, like if they happen to be buying a number at the same time, looking at the same number I was. Right, so right now the system is verifying that number was truly available and then adding it to my account. This can take a few minutes. As it is doing right now, it's taking its time. And there we go. Now, to the right here, I got this little gear icon for each of the numbers, so I can set up the caller ID for each number. Right? So I can add up the outbound caller ID name. This allows me to input up to 15 characters and count spaces as part of that 15 that we associate with that number. Right? So if you make an outbound call with that number, we also associate that name with it. Inbound caller ID name, this means if you turn this on, the system will accept inbound CNAME information, and then basically it will show up on your staff members' phones. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address. This is useful because then you can assign that phone number to your specific VoIP phones, so that if someone picks up a VoIP phone and dials 911, the proper address gets transmitted to emergency services versus like your corporate headquarters. For Canadian customers, zip code is where you would put your postal code. And in the state is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' phones. Right? It's a way to give them an idea about what the call might be about. Usually, I would say you want something relatively short, but easily identifiable for your staff members. Now, if you opt out, I don't really want to use these numbers, right? You would just click unassign and then save changes. Now, when you unassign a number, you're not deleting it. You're just moving it into a spare number status. So when we get to the numbers tab a little bit later in the training, I'll show you how to delete a number. Like you see here, Dante, see this little icon, little page icon that lets you know that he's got multiple numbers. And I can unassign that toll-free one from him as well. And the little page icon goes away. Next up, we have the devices box. This is where you can add new devices to the account, specifically down here, new devices. First up is SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone device. You have these manufacturers to choose from, right? Some have a lot of models. Some have like a dozen. So choose the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Give it a name, right? Like, Bob's phone or like warehouse phone, right? Give it either person's or location. That way you know what the phone is. MAC address, that's unique to each device. It's a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, you can also typically get this under its status settings area or basic settings. And then you would click on create device, and then you would click on save changes. Now, after that, you'd want to come back here, click on that device box again. And this is that VoIP phone, right? So you can click on the name here. And go to advanced and select miscellaneous. Down here where it says allow reprovision, you want to click the unlock button there, or unlock button, excuse me. Click on save changes, click on save changes again. So right there, by clicking that unlock and then saving changes, I've let the system know, hey, I'm going to provision this device. You then need to log into that device's web user interface. Right? So basically get the IP address, enter the IP address into a web browser on your computer, and log in. You want to get to that phone's auto provisioning page and enter in a specific URL. If you go down in the show notes, there's an auto provisioning phones document link. You want to click on that. That's going to tell you the specific areas of where to look within each of the manufacturer's UIs. There's proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, some settings to check. That document also covers how to get the IP address for the various manufacturers as well. But you input that information, the phone's going to reboot a couple times, and then it would show up as a green device on the account, which means you can make and receive calls from it. All right, next up is cell phone. This would also apply to landline. Right, you still need to give it a name. And then here in the number, right, you put the plus sign, the number 1, and then the area code and phone number. Click on create device, and then click on save changes. So I'll come here, right? So this is what it should basically look like. And if we go to the advanced options, this is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline. Now, call comes in, right? Gets offered to the cell phone. Your cell phone rings. When you pick up, the first thing you're going to hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. right? When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call. Now, if you've contracted out with an automated answering service to, say, handle your calls after hours, they typically give you a phone number and say, hey, just send calls to this phone number. Well, you can add that phone number as a cell phone or landline device on your Dash system. That's fine. However, in that instance, right, so you're sending it to an automated system. You want to come here to these advanced options, and where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail or landline's voicemail, put a check mark here and then click on Save Changes. Because now when we send a call to this phone number, instead of saying this is a forwarded call, press 1, when we hear that pickup tone, the system connects the call. Right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's no need to press 1. It's just saying the system hears the pickup tone, connects the call, which is what you would want for your automated answering service. Now, if you did this for your actual cell phone, what could happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up, right? It's still a pickup tone. So your inbound caller could end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that can come up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So customer Mary calls in, reaches to my cell phone. On my cell phone's display, I see customer Mary's phone number. If I've been getting hammered with all sorts of political calls or robodialers, maybe I don't recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail. So maybe I miss an opportunity to help customer Mary. Right? So what I might do in that instance is uncheck this one here, right? To keep original caller ID, click on save and save changes. So what happens is when customer Mary calls me, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number on my cell phone, I see this number here that I selected, right? So hopefully I would recognize my main company number, and that's a visual way for me to know, oh, this is a work call, probably worthwhile for me to pick it up. So let's go down here. All right, soft phone. So whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to your account, you're going to get this warning message. Please be sure to read it at least once. And then when you're done, go ahead and click on close. And then you're going to get this big box popping up here. Just a second. So the system will default to adding a third-party soft phone to the account, right? That means you're using somebody else's soft phone application, right? So not a VirtualPBX soft phone app. That's fine. Up here in this box here, you would give it a name. The SIP username, this is something you'd want to copy and paste. You'll need that to program that third-party soft phone. The SIP password, if you click here, it'll reveal the password. Do not change it or delete it. Just copy and paste it. That's the second piece of information you need. And then here's your account realm. So that's the third piece of information you need to program or provision that third-party soft phone. Now, after doing so, you would click on Create Device and Save Changes, right? However, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, down here below where it says View Configuration Guide, there's an additional toggle here. It says Use Third-Party Application. You can click on this. So now it flipped it. It says Use VirtualPBX Application. So now you just need to give it a name, right? So just call it New for right now. And then you would click on Create Device, and then you would click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, the user gets an email saying your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have the login information for that soft phone, right? So that's at least the second piece of login information that they have from us, right? And then it'll also have that email also has download links, right? So they can download the app to their cell phone if that's what they're going to use on, or to the computer, whichever one works. They can use that same credentials on both a computer and a cell phone, just not at the same time, right? So if I'm at my computer for most of my day, I would log into the app on my computer. But let's say I need to go to a customer site, but I still want to take work calls. I can log out of the cell phone on my computer, log into it on my cell phone, so I can still take work calls while I'm on the road. Next up, web phone. Again, you get that little warning message. You just need to give it a device name, then click on create device, right? And then save changes. Then you go to webphone.virtualpbx.net and use your dash login to make use of that phone. The web phone, right? As I mentioned before, Chrome or Firefox, that works on the computer versions, right? Not on the mobile versions, right? User features. First up, caller ID number. This is for people with their own phone number, right? So you assign a phone number directly to their user. Then you can enable this feature and choose the phone number on their user. And that's what they would use. That becomes their outbound caller ID when they make a call from their VoIP phones. Right. So this is something you might want to do for your sales staff, for instance, so that way when they make calls out, the people who they call to would call back to the number, right, that they received the call from, versus going to your main number and getting to a different salesperson. Voicemail box, right? So this most users, when you create them, you create the voicemail box with the user. So this feature is automatically enabled. So this is the default setup. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. And by default, you have 3 ways to listen to messages, but only 2 ways to manage your voicemail messages, right? Or how many you have. The first way you listen to messages is because of this one here, or this feature here, which is attach email or attach voicemail to email, right? So when someone leaves you a voicemail, you get an email notification saying you have a voicemail, right? In the body of the email, it tells you the phone number it came from, the phone number it came to, the voicemail box number it went to, and then there'll be an MP3 file that you can click on, listen to the voicemail message. Now, that doesn't manage the box for, does not manage your voicemail box for you. It just lets you listen to the messages. In terms of how to check the voicemail messages or how to manage it, up here at the top, under the menu icon, the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. And when you go to your user portal, it defaults to your voicemail tab where you can listen to your voicemail messages there. You can also change the status, right? So you can delete them if they're no longer needed. You can also call into your voicemail box, right? So from your VoIP phone, right, you can pick it up, hit *98, click call, going to log you directly into your voicemail box. You can listen to messages over the phone, and you can also delete them over the phone. From, let's say, a cell phone or landline, you can call into your main number. And if you have that main number, go into a virtual receptionist, which we'll get to in a little bit. When you hear that main greeting play, you can hit *97. That takes you to the voicemail menu. Then the system will ask you for your voicemail box number and your PIN number. You can listen over the phone that way. All right, follow me. This is a feature that is designed for users with multiple devices. So first up here, you would click to enable, and then it shows like this user has 3 devices. Right now, they're all set to do not ring, right? Because you have to tell the system what kind or which devices you want to make use of. Now, if I change this back to disabled, when a call comes into this user, all 3 of his devices ring automatically, right? I don't have to do anything. If that's how I want it set up, I would just leave this disabled, and I could increase his ringing timeout under his name if I needed to. But if I wanted to customize how calls are being offered to him, then I would enable this feature. Then under do not ring, uncheck the devices I want to make use of, and then click and drag these green bars so I can give those devices a ring time. Now, I can also adjust the total ring amount, right? So right now it defaults to 120 seconds. I can change this down to 60 if I wanted to. I can also click this distribute button. So now it equalizes the time between the 2 devices. I can click and drag and change the order, click distribute. So now I change the order of which devices are rung. These are still sliders, so I can still adjust them if I want some more overlap. Right. One thing to keep in mind about the follow me setting is that if I assign this user to a group, which is the next section we're going to talk about, calls from the group ignore the follow me setting. right? So a call from the group is going to ring all three of this person's devices. So that's one way they would know, oh, it's a group call versus someone dialing their extension number directly. Fax box. You can choose to have users have their own fax box. Right? So up here, you would click to enable. And first up, you have to decide, am I using a spare number, buying a new number, or assigning a new extension number? I recommend making use of a phone number that gives you that gives you the user the most versatility in terms of that they can send and receive faxes. If you choose an extension number, that does potentially save you money in terms of not having an extra phone number. However, this person with a fax box with just a new extension number, they can only ever receive a fax. They'll never be able to send a fax out. And you potentially limit who can send them a fax because not every electronic fax service, for instance, will allow you to add an extension number to the phone number that you're faxing to. Even with people who have, analog fax machines, they may not know how to send a fax to an extension number other than maybe, they have to listen in, hear the greeting, and then enter the new extension number and then click, send fax. Conference bridge. Up here is where you enable it. And then you would enter a conference room PIN number for the user. They can adjust this PIN number later themselves via their user portal. You can enable video conferencing. However, that's only going to be for your VoIP phone users in-house. Right? Someone calling from outside, not going to be able to make use of video conferencing. Call forwarding. You have three options: off, on, or failover mode. Off or on, your staff members can set up call forwarding off or on their own via the user portal. For any user that you added a cell phone to, you probably don't need call forwarding on since you're technically already forwarding at that point, unless they're sending calls to yet a different phone number. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for your VoIP phone users. And what this is for is, say Bob's VoIP phone goes offline for whatever reason. Right? His dog ran by, yanked out the Ethernet cable on his Yealink phone. All right, call comes into his user at that particular moment. Instead of going to his voicemail with failover mode enabled, the system can send the call to the phone number you designate, right? So in the number, you would put +1 area code or number, right? No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. So the call would automatically, say in this instance, be sent to Bob's cell phone. So he can still handle the call, help the person, and then go about getting his phone back online. Right, and then you would click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. Up here is where you enable it. When you first enable it, it looks like this. And basically, the system wants you to tell it what kind of calls to record. Inbound internal, right, coworker call. Right, so Dante called me. Right, inbound external, customer Mary called me. Right, so outbound internal, right, I called coworker Bob. Right, outbound external, I called customer Mary. So we either see the external ones set to on or all four. Now, if you have heavy call volume and you're recording every call, you definitely want to speak to our account services team about AWS integration, because that will allow you to enable that feature on your Dash account to link your Dash account with your own AWS account where you can store your call recordings there. Especially at high volumes, it's going to be way more cost effective to use AWS storage than with us. Also, for those of you in insurance, you definitely want to, we do recommend making use of AWS because I believe there's some sort of mandate for holding onto call recordings for 10 years. So that's a better option. Music on hold, you can decide to have users have their own hold music if you want to. You would click enable up here at the top, upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte, or use the pull down to select the file that's already on the account. Oh, excuse me. And then click on Save Changes. So for instance, if you want your salespeople to have a hold music that includes messages about current promotions, right, you can do that, whereas the rest of your staff would have like a generic voicemail or hold music message. Do not disturb. Right? This is where you can turn on or turn off do not disturb on a user. For instance, someone had to leave because of a family emergency, and so you don't want their phones ringing. Could be one reason why, as an admin, you would do that. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you, or allows your staff actually, to log into a VoIP phone that is not assigned to them, essentially. Right? So like it's for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. You would click up here to enable, give them a hot desk ID. So if you make use of 4-digit extension numbers, I would say just make their hot desk ID their extension number. It's just one less thing they have to memorize. Up to you if you want to require a PIN number, and then you would click on Save Changes. So for instance, I would come into the office on a Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone there, and then I hit *11. Right, click send, and then the system will ask me for my hot desk ID. I enter that, and then tells me that calls will now be sent to this device. Right, so the rest of my workday, when calls are looking for me, right, they come to the phone I'm sitting at desk number 2. End of the day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12, enter my hot desk ID, and that turns off hot desking on that phone. Next time I come into the office, say that's a Friday, Angela's at desk number 2, I say good morning, I sit down at desk number 5, same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, enter my hot desk ID, calls are coming to me at that phone. All right, next up is groups, also referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments, right? Group of people answering calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top is where you would add a new group. You need to give it a name and an extension number. And then click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. Oops. All right, and then you would click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. Right, you can always change the name. And then group call attempts. Right now I have it set to 2. There's little arrows here to the far right. So I can increase that or I can decrease it as necessary. Down here, I can always delete a group if I no longer need it. Otherwise, I can save changes if I made any changes. Then here to the right, I have the members group or members tab. So right now I have a user deleted here. So there's no one actually assigned to this group. So I can just, down here at the bottom, click on add user. I can add these 3 people, for instance. I can remove that person that's no longer there. Now I can set up the ring time. So for instance, I can do something like this. This is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, right? So call comes in, rings all 3 of my staff members at the same time, right? Now, calls from this group to these users ignores the follow me setting that these users may have. So all of their devices ring. And then basically whoever picks up first gets the call. So what can happen in this situation, right? Say David and Taylor pick up a call at the same time, right? Only one of them gets the call. All right, so let's say Taylor gets the call, David's going, hello, hello. Now, in an office environment, it's possible David could hear Taylor had pick up the call and go, oh, okay, someone got the call, no worries. All right, in a remote working situation, you'd need something like Slack or some other communication system, Teams, to make sure that someone did get the call, it wasn't dropped or something like that. System admin can also check the call logs to see that someone was able to get the call as well. Right, but what can happen in that kind of situation is one person thinks, oh, I had dead air. There's something wrong with the system or my phone, and It's just someone else picked up the call. So it's important to know how calls are routing. Now, up here at the top, all right, these are timestamps, so I can adjust it. The default is set to 120 seconds, but I can change it down to whatever I like. I can also click distribute, right? So now it equalizes out over time. Now, something to keep in mind is when a call comes into the group, right, the system doesn't pay attention to if the people are already on a call, right? So call comes in, David picks up. He's helping the customer. Second call comes into the group, it still tries to offer that second call to David, right? So if he's got call waiting on his phone, he's going to hear a beep letting him know that there's a call coming in, right? And then after 20 seconds in this instance, then it rolls over to Dante. So then Dante picks up. The third caller calls in, right? That third caller waits for 20 seconds for David, another 20 seconds for Dante before it gets offered to Taylor. Now, you can adjust the sliders so there's less hold time in that kind of situation, right? And down here, you can add more users if it's particularly busy, so you can add more people. So it's not an issue. Right. Now, if that's not something or not how you want the calls to route or behave, right? You want like to skip people who are on a call. That's where you would look at the call center and you'd want to talk to our account services team about pricing on about how that works. Basically, the call center, the call queues are an advanced version of groups, right? You have more calling route options and whatnot. The other disadvantage is for your group members, right? They can't log themselves out of the group or really mark themselves away, right? The closest thing they have is the D&D toggle. Right, groups have extension numbers. You can always add additional extension numbers if you need a group to have some. Right, groups can have their own phone number, right? So a direct support line. So you either add from spare or buy new numbers. I can also unassign a number, right? And you've got that little gear icon there too to adjust the E911 or caller ID. Groups have features. The first up is ring back. So calls come into the group, right? Offered to your group members when their phones start to ring, that ringing sound is then sent back to the inbound caller. That's ring back. If you don't want that to happen, you can enable the ring back feature and upload your own media file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in size. Key thing to remember here is that the group will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure your media file, that its play duration, right? It matches or exceeds your total ring time of the group, right? So if your group ring time is 2 minutes, make sure your media file plays for 2 minutes. But then click browse to find a file, click upload, or the up arrow icon, excuse me, and then save changes. Next action, to me, this is the most important group feature, right? But basically you're adding an action to the system in case no one picks up, right? So you have this pull down here where you can send the caller to a different group. You can send it to a user, you can send it to a specific phone, or most commonly to a voicemail box. Allow call forward. If you click enable, that means your staff members can make use of call forwarding. Again, if you're making heavy use of cell phones, you probably don't need to make use of that feature. Okay, caller ID prepend, if enabled, this allows you to add additional text or numbers that show up on your staff members' phones as part of the caller ID. All right, so this is a way to let your staff members know about the kind of call they're getting. All right, so now that we have users with devices and groups, we can go to the main number. So main company numbers shows all your main numbers on the account. You've got the gear icon here to update caller ID, E911, or prepend. You also have the option here to add from spare or buy new numbers if you need to have multiple or more main numbers on your account. But once you have main numbers, then you can set up your office hours strategy. You're defaulted to 24-hour open office, but you can easily change to custom office hours. And if you do so, for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes here to the right, you set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here towards the bottom, you also have the option to say that you're closed for lunch every day at the same time. Just put a check mark here and then set your lunch hours in that, again, that 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. Then over here to the right, you have the option here to click on Add Holiday, and then you have the option for single day, date range, and advanced. Single day, like I have here for Christmas, right? I gave it a name, choose the month and the date, click on Save Changes. Date range, like I have here for a holiday, right? Gave it a name, start date, end date, save changes. There's no year indicator here, so we do recommend avoiding a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just in case. And then advanced, I have like here for Memorial Day, where I gave it a name. I choose the month. This second pull down, you can choose first through fifth, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then save changes. If you need to get rid of a holiday, you click on the little trash icon here to the far right, and then save changes. Incoming call handling. So for my 4 main numbers, how am I handling calls during my open hours, during my after hours, during my holidays, right? So during my open hours, I have calls coming in to this first option here, right? Calls coming in to the virtual receptionist, and this is a link. Opens up this big old box. The main menu, these are what people press on their phones to navigate through my phone system. And if I need to add more, I click on Add Route. That gives me a new row. In this first pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action to work with. The second pull down is anything that you've already created on your system. Right? So this is part of why I say, hey, create your users and your groups first, so that way you have destinations to work with. But you can choose users, you can choose call queues in this case, groups. I have virtual extensions as well, devices, voicemail boxes. Now, over here on the right, I have my greeting options. First up is text-to-speech, right? You simply type in a greeting here. You can use type in up to 250 characters, not words. It doesn't count spaces, however. I'll give you a little bit of leeway there. And it reads it back in a computerized or robotic voice. There's no charge for the text-to-speech greeting. So this is something I typically recommend for people just starting out, either starting out with us or starting in their own new business, etc. Right? They're just getting a feel for how they want things to go. Now, the downside for the text-to-speech greeting is that the system names the file for you. So it's very easy to have several files with the same name, and you're not going to be able to tell without listening to them. Right? So if you make use of text-to-speech greetings, that's fine. But after you click on the update, then save and save changes, I recommend going to the greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly, finding that main open hours menu TTS file, which is what it would be under this time frame, and change it to something you could recognize, like main greeting 1. You can upload your own file, right? .wave, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. You would just click the choose a file button here to find the file on your computer, then update and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show all the media files on your account, which is why you would want to choose names that are easily identifiable for you. You can record it over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a phone registered on the account, that means pick up a VoIP phone. If you don't want to use a VoIP phone, that's fine. But then what you would want to do is come down here under settings. And then where it says allow outside recording, right, turn that on. That'll that basically lets you call in with a cell phone or landline. Now, the reason by default that this is off is a security feature, right? Because a phone registered on the account, the system knows, oh, this is a phone tied to this account. It's safe to make a change to my main greeting, right? So when you have this on, anyone can call in, and if they happen to guess the correct PIN number, then they can change your main greeting on you, right? So that's why after you make that change, you want to turn that back off. And here is that PIN number, right? This PIN number is specific to this account to this time of day, right? So this PIN number only works during my open hours. If I called in on Saturday and tried to use this PIN number, I would get an invalid entry message. And then we have professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab, take you to Snap Recordings, which is a separate company. They have something like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly via credit card and send you the file via email. So then you can come back here and upload your own file. All right, settings. So number of retries on missed dial is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. Right, hitting a bad option. Typically, anywhere from 1 to 3 is typically fine for most customers. So in this case, when I say 1, right, they have 2 total attempts, right? They get 1 built-in attempt, and they make a mistake. The greeting would play again. They can enter a second option. Dialing a timeout is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, right? So that person calls in and they press 7. The system will wait for 5 seconds. Said, oh, you mean extension 7 or menu option 7. Those none of those exist. So then it would give, we did not recognize your entry, and then play the message again. Now, after that second failure, right, because I have only 1 retry attempt, then the system would send it to the default action. So in this case, to my virtual or my directory. If I don't have a directory or I don't have that default action, the system would end the call. Right? I would say, we did not recognize your entries. Goodbye. Wait, sure. Oh, allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. This means that if someone enters a valid extension number, the system transfers the call. Right? If I turn this off, that means the inbound caller can only enter those menu options, and that's it. Suppress the playing of the invalid entry message. This basically means if you enable this or turn it on, that means that message saying we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, does not play. So any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, click save here. Click save changes here, right? So you're clicking save twice. Right. After hours, this I'm making use of what's referred to as a live operator answer option. Right. So I'm offering calls to my group, my support group here. If they're not able to pick up, the calls go to my virtual receptionist. This first pull down, right, I can select anything on the account, right? I can select a user, I can select a device, I can select another group, etc. And then this virtual receptionist, because it's my after hours, right, I would have likely a different greeting. I have different menu options. For my holidays, I'm using this third option where I'm telling when calls come in, right, don't do anything initially, just send it to this voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, I can still choose to send it to a user, to a group, call queue, a device, a media file, right, whatever already exists on my account. So it can offer a call first to say one of my users, and then I can say, oh, send it to this specific voicemail box. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. Once you do have a conference number, you can edit the custom greeting, right? You would click enable and then type in a text-to-speech greeting. Even if you leave this disabled, when you call your conference number, the system says welcome to the conference and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. Main fax box number, you can only have the one. Once you do have a fax box number, you can edit the fax box. Inbound notification, right? Designed to put an email address here. And that means every time you get a fax, this person gets an email saying, hey, you have a new fax. In the body of the email, the date, the time, phone numbers involved, as well as a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, say from their cell phone, then they hang up after you hear the fax tones, this person still gets an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, in the body of the email, there'll sometimes be something like, shows the phone number and then wireless number. That's a dead giveaway that that was a misdial. But beyond that, you'd want to check with the person who's sending a fax to you and let them know it did not get through. The email permissions, this is designed to put in your company's email domain here. So anyone at VirtualPBX, they can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on the account. Right? You could also just put a single person's email if you only want to allow one person to send a fax out. Right, next up is auto attendance. This is actually a plan-specific feature, right? So available on some plans or not on others. This allows you to create secondary attendance. So you would do this for submenuing, for instance, like one for English, two for Spanish, that sort of thing. Or if you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, right? So each business would have its own phone numbers and own main greetings, but potentially you have the same staff members answering calls for each of them. Up here at the top, click on Add Auto Attendant, give it a name, give it an extension number, and then click on Create Attendant. The extension number is not something your customers would likely ever know, but your staff members could use to transfer calls, right? So if you have like multilingual attendants, right, like a Spanish attendant, and a call went to someone who doesn't speak Spanish, right, and their inbound caller obviously does, your staff member could transfer that caller to the Spanish attendant. So that way that person can get that proper help. All right, so once you've created an attendant, it starts off looking like this. So by default, it's unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, i.e. separate business. You can click on this. So now it's available in main menu. So it's a menu option, right? So it would show up as a potential menu option from that second pull down. Another virtual receptionist. It's also available as a next option or next action destination for your groups. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. You also have that little gear icon there. Extension box, you can have multiple extension numbers for your auto attendants if you need to. Then you got the little wrench icon here under settings. The open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches the times we set up under the main number. Excuse me. So if you have a business that's 24/7 and another business that's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you probably want to talk to our account services to see if having them both on the same account makes sense or if it makes more sense to have two accounts. If there are going to be on one account, there'd be some custom work done. So it'd be a little bit more difficult to like change greetings and that sort of thing. All right, devices tab shows all the devices on the account. Green means it's registered, so we can send calls to that device, right? Red is unregistered. That could be people are not logged in or that, like a cable's unplugged or possibly a network issue of some sort. The black device down here at the very bottom means it was disabled here under the enable column. You can add devices directly to this page, but you can't assign them anywhere. right? You have to do that directly on the user's page. So something to keep aware of. The wrench icon here under edit, you can adjust things like the external caller ID, right? You can choose a phone number that's on the account. This is where you choose the emergency caller ID, right? So any phone number that you have set up with an E911 address, you can select here. So that way, when this person picks up their soft phone and dials 911, the proper address gets sent out. Oh, one thing I wanted for physical devices, right? Under advanced audio, under the selected codec, you want to make sure G711A and G711U are over here on the right. That means you might need to click and drag them over. Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Right, you can upload new files by clicking add here, right? Give it a name, find the file on your device. Oops. And then click on create greeting. All right, so name, obviously the name of the file. Source, TTS means text to speech. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. The play column here, if you click on the little icon, you can play back the file directly in your browser so you can see if it's relevant. Download, oops. Right, you can download the file directly to your device. So like if you want to keep a copy of a greeting so you have one as a backup, not a bad idea. Also, if for some reason the play button doesn't work, right, you can download it to your device and listen to it on your device's media player. Then you got the little wrench icon here. Right, here's where you can change the file name, right? Oops, helps to not have a typo. I can also delete a greeting if it's no longer relevant. Otherwise, I would just click on Save Changes. So like if you see here, I have two English open hours menu TTSs. So for instance, I can just opt to get rid of one. Now, normally I would play it back to make sure I chose the right one, but this is a test account, so I'm not too worried about it. Next up, we have the Numbers tab. So starts off in spare numbers in use, right? Shows me where the numbers are assigned. I can click the gear icon to update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. The spare number tab, this is the numbers I'm not currently using. If I want to get rid of a number, I want to click on the box in front of the number. And then up here I have the option to delete. Click delete numbers. And now they're no longer on my account. Right, by numbers, I have local toll-free, which would just add them as additional spare numbers. Port starts the port process. Right, you would give it a name, choose local or toll-free. Then click next, upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill from the current carrier. Like if you're porting from AT&T to VirtualPBX, right, you upload your AT&T bill. Then there's a form to fill out that should match the information AT&T has on file for you. You'll then have the opportunity to download a blank letter of agency or LOA, and then upload a completed and signed LOA. Right? The signature can be a digital signature file, or you can print it out and sign it manually and scan it back in. Please do not just type your name in twice or print your name. The pointing team will email you and saying, hey, we need an actual signature, because anytime we've submitted without an actual signature, it gets rejected. Toll-free numbers typically take about 3 to 5 business days for the port to complete, assuming everything is correct. Local numbers can vary from as quick as 1 business day up to about 3 weeks on average. If there's an error, we double check we get a rejection, right? We double check to make sure there's not a typo that we may have made or alternate information we could have used. If we've, once we've exhausted all of our options, then we let you know saying, hey, we're getting a rejection for this reason. You're going to need to contact the current carrier to find out the correct porting out information. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. Anything that has entry under this third column, the user, which will be a voicemail box that was created with the user, right? Anything that doesn't have anything there means you created it on this page, which you would do up here at the top by clicking Add New Voicemail Box. Then you give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then click on Create Voicemail Box. One thing to keep in mind is the voicemail box number is not an extension number. So if someone tries, dials my main, gets to my virtual receptionist, right, and then tries to enter in 3333, they are not getting transferred to this voicemail box. They'd actually get an invalid entry, unless I set up a menu option that goes specifically to the voicemail box. Now, the voicemail box number and the PIN number, right, that's what you would use to listen to messages over the phone or change the greeting over the phone. And then under advanced greeting media, you can select a media file to either upload a file or choose one that's already on the account to play back once the inbound caller gets to this voicemail box. If you have something selected in temporary, it plays, right? It will supersede anything that you set in the media file. This is for that out of office or vacation message. The media file won't play again until temporary is set back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have one recipient built in, right? That email address used for login. But for any voicemail box, you can come here and click Add New Recipient and add additional recipients that need to get that voicemail message. Right? This is typically done for like managers may want their emails on their employees' voicemail boxes so that they have a copy of it. Or like in this case, this is a support voicemail box. So having multiple people get the message makes sense, right? Options. So once you have a media file in place and recipients in place, then you can check already set up. So that way things won't get changed over the phone easily, meaning the greeting. And then you can also double check, are you deleting after notification? And are you attaching messages to email? Now, the reason that I would want this voicemail box to delete after notification checked like this is because I don't want this voicemail box to ever get full. Right? And since I have multiple people getting the email notifications, it's not likely I'm going to miss those, any voicemails that come in. So basically, and what that means is caller gets the voicemail, leaves a message, that email gets sent out, the system automatically deletes the voicemail message from the system, so I can only check via email. But it never gets full, so it doesn't cause a concern for my customers. Virtual text forward, this is an add-on feature. And you click up here to add number. You choose a number on your account and then enter either an email address or a webhook, right? One or the other, not both. Click on create virtual text forward. And what this means is when a message is sent to any one of these numbers, right, or text message, right, they in turn create an email that gets sent to this person with the text message information, right? It's like this is the message that was received. It's not for two-way notification or text conversations. Virtual extensions. This is a plan-specific feature that allows you to create additional extensions without adding users. The limitation here is under the devices. Actually, here, let's go. Add extension, right? You give it a name, you give it an extension number, and then you click on create. Right, so you can only change the name, you can change the extension number or add additional. And then devices, right? You can add a SIP phone, cell phone, Now, the soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone because there's no email address associated with it, so there's no way for us to send those credentials to them. And likewise, you can't add a web phone because, again, there's not a user involved. The virtual extensions, you're also not able to add to a group or a call queue, right? Because they're not users, but they are a valid extension option from the virtual receptionist or even as a menu option. Call logs shows your call histories. Right? You have today, this week, this month. You can also go to custom, which allows you to go back up to 12 months. And then click on filter. Little green arrow to the right, that's a call coming into the system, and you can click on it to get some more details. So here you can see call came in to the system, and then from the system out to this particular device. The yellow arrow to the left is a call going out from the system. So typically an outbound call. Little fire extinguisher icon here. This will create an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical details of the call. In the body of the email, you're going to want to type in why exactly you're sending the call in, just because from the technical details, we may not be able to understand why exactly you're sending it in. Generally speaking, if you see normal clearing on a call, that's a good thing, right? That means the call ended normally. If you see something else, typically under these additional legs here, that could be a red flag of like a network issue or something else going on. You can download these files as a CSV file, right? So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can get quite a bit of information out of this. Now, if you need to go back further than 12 months, you need to contact our support team because we'd have to escalate that to our engineers. But the engineers can only go back up a total of 18 months. After that, the data is not available. So if you need your call log information for any kind of compliance reasons, then you'd probably want to download your call logs like on a monthly basis. Feature codes, I've talked about a couple of these. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. Obviously, a page here on your dashboard. If you go into the support pages, you can do a search for feature codes or the phone commands cheat sheet, which will show you what the feature codes are, but they also have that particular document has the context help there as well. So that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your staff members. You would click Edit Blacklist over here on towards the top right. Click Add to create a new list, or you can choose an existing list. Right, so you would need to give a name, and then choose: are you blocking anonymous calls or not? Right, by default, this is off, meaning those calls would go through. Right, an anonymous call just means we're not getting valid inbound caller ID. And then beyond that, down here, you would click on Add Number, and then add +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And those are the numbers that you're blocking from reaching your staff. So keep clicking Add until you're done adding numbers. And then once you're done, you would click on Save. Go back, click on Back to Settings. Make sure your list is over here on the right-hand side under Selected. And if it is, then go ahead and click on Update. Right, so now any phone number on these lists, when they try to call into the system, it would show up in your call log at they reach the system, but then the system blocks them from getting further in. Right, so that inbound caller, they hear busy tones. Right, so they're not ringing on staff members' phones. Call recording. So this account is set up with AWS. So this is showing my call recordings on the AWS side. So I can see the inbound calls, the phone numbers they involved. I can play back the files. I can download them. If you're using the system built-in call recording, this would actually open up a new tab and takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It will request your dash login information for you to get logged in, but then you can view the recordings, play them back, download them, etc. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what phone they're using, right? So I have the employee look here. That's all, who's available, who's busy. I can switch it to devices between all available and who's busy. Active inbound calls, right? Each one would have a blue box and show who they're speaking to among my staff. Park calls would just be a new row for each one, shows the inbound caller ID number and their parking spot number. Reports, this opens up a new tab. This is actually a plan-specific feature. Takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com, has its own login information. This allows you to create your own or customized reports. If you look in the show notes, there is a link there for the advanced reporting demo to give you an idea of what can be done. And if you're interested in that, you could add it via the add-ons or speak to our account services team in case there's enough add-ons that you want to make use of that it might make sense to change plans. Voicemails. This takes you or allows you to get to any voicemail box on the account. Right, so you can see the messages that are there. Right? You see the date, the time, phone numbers involved. I can play it back. I can download them. If I put a little check mark here, I can change its status, or as an admin, I can even move it to a different voicemail box. Right, so this is something that you would do to, like, someone complains that a voicemail box is full. You can come here and check it out, find out what's going on. Integration AWS, plan-specific feature. Right, this allows you to link your Dash account to an AWS account. The access key, secret access key, and bucket are the three things we would need from your AWS account in order to link to it. Right, so you'd have to have that set up on the other side. Call center, this opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com. This is call queues, right? So if you ever called your bank, for instance, and then been told, your call will be handled by the next agent available, you enter the call queue. Call queues are an advanced version of groups, right? So call queue, like agents in a queue can log themselves in and out, as well as mark themselves away or ready, right? Which is not something you can do in a group. You also have different routing options within a queue, like round robin, who's been waiting the longest for a call gets the next call, that sort of thing. Queues also have features like a manager can eavesdrop in on a call, right? So they can listen in. They can whisper to your staff member to help, right? A little coaching, or even just barge in if things are getting out of control, right? If you look in the show notes, there's the ACD Queues Pro demo link that will show you a bit about what the call center is about. Dynamic caller ID is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So first up here, I have my Vegas one. So I gave it a name. I chose a 702 number on my account, and I simply stated, whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number on their VoIP phones, the system will automatically change the outbound caller ID to the 702 number. Now, slightly more complicated is this other one here, where my staff members need to dial a feature code first, right? They do hit star 951, area code and phone number they're reaching out to. The system will automatically change the outbound caller ID, to this 916 number. Right, faxes is your fax manager, so you can get to any fax box on the account. Starts off on inbound faxes, so I can see here the date, the time, phone number involved, number of pages, and I can download the file. I can click on outbound faxes. So if you see a failure here, that means we had a problem communicating with that other phone number. And I mouse over it and it says, right, timed out waiting for initial communication. So that means it was a valid phone number, but the system didn't hear a fax tone. So it failed. So likely either the number was entered incorrectly or we were given a wrong number. Now, if I go to the email to fax logs, here, this is a problem where the system had a problem processing the request. Right, so you can see, okay, here's the email address that's involved and the phone number. So that looks correct. You can click on the little eyeball icon here at the far right, and you say here, and under errors, no valid attachment. So that means everything else is fine, but we didn't have a PDF or TIFF file. Number Manager just takes you back to your spare number page. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. So essentially, some level of programming allows you to link your Dash account to other software. If you look in the show notes, you can look at the introduction to Zapier webinar. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash to other software. You actually want to talk to our sales staff if you want this feature. SMS registration, this is the process you would have to go through to make use of texting on the account. If you just signed up with us and you want to make use of SMS, you actually want to talk to our account services team. They will go over the registration process and what to expect. There is a fee, I believe it's $29, but again, you want to talk to our account service team to confirm that. The registration status will tell you what the current status is of the account in terms of SMS. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. It defaults to starting you off here on your voicemail tab. Right, you can see the date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can play back the message. You can download the message. Call history allows you to view your call history for that individual user. You can go back in time, again, up to about 12 months, and see the calls that you made or received. Faxes only works for users that have their own fax box, but then they can see their fax history. Contact list is everything on your Dash account, right? So other users, feature codes, auto attendants, etc. It's not something I can add to as a user. It's just something it's a for reference. Conference tab, only useful for users that you've enabled the conference feature on. Excuse me. And we'll wait for it to load. Doesn't normally take quite this long. So typically on the conference tab page, on the right-hand side, that's where your staff members can adjust their PIN numbers, both for moderator and participants. We do recommend that those two PIN numbers be different, just for security reasons. You also have the option to have people join muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. Also, while in a conference, if they come to this page, they'll have the option to invite other Dash users to their conference. They can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call, as well as each participant and moderator will have their own little blue box, so they can mute a specific person, for instance, or even kick out a specific person if necessary. Settings and devices, right here. This is where your staff members would enable call forwarding on their own. Right, put a check mark, put +1 area code and number, and then click save. So now I'm call forwarding. Right, uncheck it, click save. Now I'm not call forwarding. Try that one conference tab one more time. Not sure what's going on there. But beyond that, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.